Often when we consider autistic children, we look at it from a really deficit point of view. So what can't they do? What are they having challenges with? And what do they need? And that can be really unhelpful for autistic children who are then absorbing the message that who they are and how they do things isn't right. And that's not great for their self-esteem. And autistic children already experience challenges maintaining a healthy level of self-esteem. So I would suggest instead that it's more useful to recognise your autistic child's strengths and to use those strengths to inform the ways that you approach the challenges that they're having and the accommodations that they might need. Autistic children often have a real challenge maintaining healthy levels of self-esteem, and that's because they tend to have what I describe as a leaky self-esteem bucket. So no matter how much praise or encouragement or wins they're having in their life, there's always self-esteem coming out of the bottom of that bucket, meaning that the levels are always dropping. So as a parent, I see my job as making sure that I'm topping up that bucket on a regular basis and keeping their self-esteem levels high, but also that I'm teaching them to start to recognise their strengths and wins so that as they grow into independence, they're able to do the work of maintaining their self-esteem themselves. And I think it's tempting as a parent when we're trying to encourage our children to believe in themselves to only consider the big wins. You know, you won at sports day or you got a swimming grade passed. And this is great, but I think it's also really useful to notice the small wins in day-to-day life, like you tried a new food, you put on your shoes yourself, you went to bed on time, or you spoke really kindly to your little sister today. Because if you're noticing the small wins, then that means that you're gradually topping up that bucket in a consistent way and keeping their self-esteem levels high. I think sometimes autistic children can be real black and white thinkers. So when they're considering their successes, they kind of have either succeeded or they've failed. And so I think it can be really useful to teach our autistic children to see the wins within the failures and to see the small wins within the day that they might not even be noticing. So if my child has done something and not necessarily achieved what they wanted, I would still point out that they had tried, that they had learned something from the experience that they can take with them into the next experience. And I would point out the small wins around what had happened there, like perhaps they approached it with a really great attitude but didn't quite achieve what they expected. I would be praising the attitude that they approached it with, so that you're teaching them to look at the grey areas within life and not to always consider that they've either succeeded or failed, which will really help them maintaining a healthy level of self-esteem. I think sometimes it can be tempting to tell our autistic children that their autism gives them superpowers, and to point out autistic people who have achieved amazing things in the world, to feel like you're telling them that their autism won't stop them from succeeding. And that comes from a really well-meaning place, but actually can put quite a lot of pressure on the autistic child, that they can't just be a child, they have to be a child with superpowers, which isn't necessarily all that helpful, because if they don't feel that they have superpowers, they can end up feeling that they're failing even at being an autistic person. For example, there's the commonly known fact that autistic people are generally really, really good at Where's Wally, the game where you have to find the guy in a crowd. And I am really, really bad at Where's Wally. And so for about 4 years after I was diagnosed, I genuinely felt a little bit like I was failing at being autistic because I couldn't do Where's Wally, and because I was no good at maths, and because I couldn't code computers. So I think it's really important to teach autistic children that autism doesn't mean that you're going to be particularly great at certain things commonly associated with autism, or even that you have to be particularly great at certain things, and that it's completely okay to just be comfortable and happy in your own skin.